impact investor, advocate for women entrepreneurs, and author of LEAPFROG, the new revolution for women entrepreneurs. Welcome, Nathalie, and thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's my first time at FLEA. I'm here because I'm a huge believer in what we in tech call the leapfrog. I also heard we're going to talk a little bit about impact investing all week long, and this is a space that I've been neck deep in for the last few years since founding my first investment firm, Brava Investments, and most recently with my new partnership, Full Cycle. I've dedicated my second career to impact with a gender and a climate lens. And by the time I entered the impact space, far later than people like Raul, we had already seen a shift from the early days of screens where we just removed toxic things from our investment portfolio, as we discussed. But let's be honest, the idea of screening for toxic investments is not exactly what I'd call impact. It's more like zero impact, right? Which I suppose is better than negative impact, as Raul was saying, but I still think we're all in agreement that now we can and we actually are doing a lot better than that. By 2016, when I launched my firm at the Obama White House, the buzz at the event was that we had already moved into what I heard people like Raul and so many others refer to as Impact 2.0. We were moving beyond just screens, and we were actually making change happen. Basically, we said we demanded more. We said, hey, you know what? Do no harm is not good enough. How about we actively use our capital to create things that actually make real measurable change, for technologies that will save our planet and empower women and a hell of a lot more. So the question that I'm asking myself is, how are we doing? When it comes to diversity, when it comes to gender and climate change, here's what I see. At last count, Wharton's Project SAGE cataloged 87 funds dedicated to gender lens investing, and 27 of them launched in 2018. And according to Bloomberg, both venture and private equity investments into clean tech grew 127% over the previous year in 2018, which accounts for $9.2 billion into the space. This is the highest total since 2010. But here's where I get a little bit impatient, and where I have to insist that we have a chance to leapfrog into what I would love to call impact investing 3.0, or better yet, just investing for smart people. In my native Ecuador, in the span of a few years, I watched as farmers who lived off the grid for generations and never had a landline in their home are now walking around with 2 smartphones in their pockets telling me to WhatsApp them and send my payment to them via Zoom. Anybody else see that? That is called a leapfrog. It's what we aspire to in the tech world, and it's what we need to do now in the world of impact investing. And for anybody who thinks, whoa, Nathalie, slow down. You know what? Change is iterative. It takes time. We just got people to understand what impact investing 2.0 is. Let's give them a chance to adjust. I would remind you that when Martin Luther King was fighting for civil rights in the United States, he was told the exact same thing. Go slow, they said. But go slow is a luxury that we do not have. Not on climate change and not on the long overdue effort of getting women to be treated like human beings. Latin America, in my opinion, just like that farmer in the Andes, is exactly where a leapfrog is most likely to happen. So I'm going to outline here the 2 central flaws, and I promise I won't stay negative, that I think are slowing down, and then I'll walk you through how I propose we fix it and leapfrog into impact investing 3.0. The 2 biggest issues that I see are, first, a focus on optics and what looks good on your annual report, rather than outcomes. And the second one is an obsession with new technology, which I understand is ironic given the theme for the conference is new technology. First, despite the fact that we have some of the most brilliant finance and economic minds, George being one of those, in our industry, the impact investing community continues to behave as if it believes in a central idea, like Santa Claus or meritocracies in Silicon Valley, that aren't actually real. And I'm specifically talking about the ideal of trickle-down economics. To put it bluntly, in the world of gender lens investing, what I see even today is a whole lot of white ladies investing in a whole lot of other white ladies. And the data supports me. Only 2.5% of venture capital goes to women-owned businesses, but 0.2% goes to women of color. We give Silicon Valley a hard time for racism and sexism and inherent biases that they defend by calling it pattern matching. But then we here, in the space of impact investing, come in and we do the exact same thing, pattern matching. And when you talk to many of my colleagues in the impact investing space, specifically around gender, the way they explain their theory of change usually involves words like virtuous circle, paying it forward, and their portfolios are filled with companies with pink logos, all the while wanting us to believe that making 1 or 2 successful women founders a billionaire is somehow going to translate into improving the conditions of billions of women worldwide. I'm sorry, but no matter how much pink lipstick you put on that pig, that is still trickle-down economics, and it's not a thing. Instead, if we want the future to look more equitable and just, what we need to focus on is investing in outcomes, not optics. And what that means practically is that if investment comes to you and doesn't have a female founder, for example, but it has the potential to help women, like say a treatment for breast cancer, please invest in it. The thing is it may not look great on your annual report focused on gender, and there may not even be a pink logo involved. But for God's sakes, let's focus on outcomes, real measurable impact, not optics. And now to my second beef. In our space, as an investor, especially one that looks at climate change, what we see the most, and I'm sure many of you know this and feel this every day, is early stage venture opportunities. If you look at the overall dollars in the space, of course the numbers show a different balance in absolute terms, but if you count by deals, what we see at full cycle is an obsession with the next new technology, rather than technology that's available right now. Because the thing is new technology certainly is higher risk, but in our world, it's also perceived as more sexy and more exciting. And we love to put it and the founders on covers of magazines and podcasts and in tragic documentaries. But here's the thing, no one is talking about the fact that new tech takes decades to flourish. So for example, 2009 is when Google X, with all of their resources and technological might, kicked off the autonomous vehicle project. That was 10 years ago. Raise your hand if you got here driven by your autonomous car. One. There's always one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that just because new technology takes time, we shouldn't invest in early stage clean tech. But here's the issue. In 80 years, our planet will not be compatible with modern society. Now, 80 years might not be within any of our lifetimes, but the reality is that if we continue as we are within the next 30 years, there will be more trash than fish in the oceans. And you know what? Never mind 30 years from now. The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere right now, the stuff you're breathing tonight in Merida, is unprecedented for the human species. What that means is that no human before you and me has ever lived or survived on a planet like this, breathing air like this. There are technologies right here, right now, ready to be deployed and reversing climate change. They may not seem super sexy, but they aren't high risk either. And if you invest in them, you probably won't make it to the cover of Inc. magazine or Wired, and you know what? TechCrunch is probably not going to care or write about it. But there are technologies that are languishing as undercapitalized small and mid-sized businesses that have the potential to stabilize or at least slow the rate of climate change, and they're right under our noses. But in the US especially, we're so busy obsessing over the shiny new idea that somebody pitched us last week, Shark Tank style, that we don't see that there are solutions that are available right now, and they are far better than anything new. Impact 3.0, or as I would love to call it, just investing for smart people, is simply this. 1, invest for outcomes, not optics. And 2, prioritize now over new. The US is going to take time to adapt and adjust to these ideas. But in Latin America, like that Andean farmer with a smartphone, we can leapfrog. We can bypass the slowness of the multinationals and the bureaucracies of a developed world that's entrenched in its ways. We can skip the growing pains and define impact in more practical terms, just like our parents and grandparents taught us. Real businesses with real results and real outcomes. And we can define at our own and frankly more urgent pace. We can do it on Latin time, and we must. Thank you.